Shalom. My name is Gary Sokol, and I'm a congregant at Congregation Beth Sholom in San Francisco. When one is asked to give a Devar Torah, the first question is usually, what is the parsha that you want me to discuss? There's only one wrong response, and that is, oh, but there's really nothing interesting in that parsha. Well, when I was asked to speak on Lech Lecha, the exact opposite thought crossed my mind. There's so much there, and has been discussed by so many brilliant people. What could I possibly have to add? So I asked if I could think about it for a while before accepting this challenge. A few days later, I was studying with Rabbi Russell, and she was teaching about teshuvah, normally translated as repentance or returning. But for the sake of our discussion here, I'd like to propose transformation. Rabbi Russell introduced the concept, as stated by Rabbi Yitzhak in Talmud Rosh Hashanah 16b, that one may perform teshuvah by changing one's name. I was surprised. I had heard of this custom, but always thought it was simply an old world superstition where it took one of two forms. Either people who were ill changed their names before Yom Kippur, so the Malach HaMavet, angel of death, could not find them, or conversely, so that they were not written into the book of life, so that their suffering would come to an end. But here it was, introduced in the Talmud as a means of teshuvah. I had now found for myself a new point of entry into Lech Lecha. The parsha begins, Vayomer Adonai el Abraham Lech Lecha. The Lord said to Abraham, go forth. And a few lines later continues, V'agadla shemecha, I will make your name great. So I ask, what is in a name? Most of us have a Hebrew name. Mine is Gavriel ben Svivieta. It consists of a name given to me and the name of my parents. It basically states that I am my own unique person. I am also a product of the values and upbringing provided to me by my parents. Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, is my father's yahrzeit. The meaning of my name and all that it carries is very present for me at this moment. In Lech Lecha chapter 17, God says to Abraham, you shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. Abram is spelled Aleph, Beit, Resh, Mem. Abraham is spelled Aleph, Beit, Resh, Hey, Mem. Rabbi Eli Kaunfer from the Hadar Institute points out in a teaching that all the letters of Abram still exist in Abraham, but there is now more, the letter Hey. This is how most of us go through a transformation. We are still the same person we were, but we have grown. Rabbi Kaunfer goes on to say that towards the end of the Torah, when it is running through a genealogy, it says, Abraham hu Abraham. Abram is Abraham. The rabbis read this as saying, even after Abram becomes Abraham, his essential righteousness continued. Later in the same class I mentioned earlier, Rabbi Russell introduced another concept of changing one's name as a path to teshuvah, this time from Rambam in Mishneh Torah Repentance chapter 2. In this form of teshuvah, Rambam says the individual is saying, Ani acher, ve'eni oto ha'ish she'asa otan hama'asim. I am now another person and not the person who perpetrated those misdeeds. Interestingly, we have another individual in Lech Lecha who goes through this type of transformation. It is Sarai, the wife of Abraham. God says, you shall not call her Sarai, her name shall be Sarah. Sarai is spelled Shin Resh Yud, but Sarah is spelled Shin Resh Hey. The old Sarai no longer exists. Rabbi Kaunfer introduces two midrashim to explain what happened to the Yud. In the first, we see in Parsha Sholach Lecha, we are told that Moses changed the name of Hosea, son of Nun, to Yehoshua, Joshua. Hosea is spelled Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin, and Yehoshua is spelled Yud, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin. The missing Yud from Sarai appears generations later and helps transform Hosea into Joshua, the leader of the Jewish people. It is as if to literally say our actions today can have impacts on generations well into the future. As I said, however, Rabbi Kaunfer also mentioned a second midrash. In this one, we are told the letter Yud is equivalent to the number 10, and the letter Hey, the number 5. In this case, the Yud in Sarai is split into two Heys. One stays with Sarah, and the other goes to Abraham. It is not focused solely on the impacts of Sarah's transformation on the future, but on her existing relationships in the present. Sarai, in her transformation to Sarah, gives of herself and changes her destiny. She is no longer Sarai, who cannot conceive, but is now as Sarah, a matriarch and the mother of the Jewish people. As I contemplated these name changes and the resultant transformations in Lech Lecha, I was drawn to our current situation. It is fair to say we will all be changed, dare I say transformed, by these months of isolation brought on by this pandemic. I said at the start that my Hebrew name is Gavriel ben Tzvi. Will the transformation that I undergo be like that of Abraham? I will retain my basic essence, influenced by the values instilled in me by my parents, but directed by my own agency to become hopefully something better? Or will it be more in line with the radical transformation undergone by Sarah, whose transformation not only impacted her current relationship, but also the future? That, I submit, is the challenge proposed to us today by Lech Lecha. Shabbat Shalom.